Jared Wronski. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Glenn. Thanks for having me here.
So, sports media, sports announcing, sports master, if you. Tell me a little bit more about who you are, what you do, what you've been up to.
My name's Jared Wronski, like you said. For almost 30 years now, I've been a sports PA announcer, sports DJ, game producer, game production, game presentation. So basically, when you go to a game, anything you see, feel, or hear, I have something to do with. Whether it's the music, whether it's announcing, sometimes I'm running the scoreboard with all that. Sometimes I'm just running the whole show, and I've got a whole staff underneath me. So it's a lot of work. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of stress, but the stress can be fun too.
Yeah. Sports announcing. Okay, so you're calling out, like what is it? Bryant checked Smith in the corner or something like that. Like all the crazy action you're calling on the announcement on the PA system or what have you.
Yep, on the PA, and I've got one coming up. I've got an event coming up where I'm also doing the broadcast. So I'm doing the broadcast PA with the headset on, and then the broadcast for the internet stream, and then I've got the handheld mic with the PA. So that's one of those that people go, how do you do both?
Yeah, I feel the same. I feel the same way with this podcast. Like you saw me offline, like clicking all these things. Like, hold on one second. Yeah, I get it, man. You got to have 3 or 4 hands, man.
Yeah, it definitely takes a little bit of concentration, a lot of focus, and making sure that the people around you understand what's going on, and thankfully most do, and they don't try asking you questions when you're in the middle of talking about the game.
Yeah. So what are the games like now? Well, first off, before we get into that, what's your main sport? Like what do you announce most regularly?
Right now it's hockey, and it started back up with the Hershey Bears. We just had a game last weekend. It was definitely different having 300 to 400 people in the stands instead of 10,000 people in the stands like we're used to there. But because of all of the years of announcing youth games with just parents, or junior games with just parents, high school games with a few student friends and stands and parents, you kind of get used to having a big arena with very few people in it. So that wasn't hard to get used to. What was hard to get used to was now that, okay, this is a Hershey Bears game. This is the 7th oldest franchise in pro sports. And now I'm announcing it. I'm also doing the music for it. And, it was a little nerve wracking, but also, being out of practice for so long, I think that had something to do with a lot of nerves that were going on during the game.
So Hershey Bears, is that NHL for PA?
It's Capitals minor league affiliate.
Capitals minor league. Okay. Hey, very cool. Yeah, very cool. I had a buddy of mine, like, I don't know, 10 years ago, he was trying to do some D-League tryouts. I think he was at the time 34, God bless him, 34, 35. He had some aspirations for NBA. And so he did his research, and he went to a couple of D-League tryouts and did okay, but didn't get picked, and he chose a different path eventually. But I've been to a lot of D-League. I've been to a lot of those D-League tryouts and a couple of D-League games. I was at the 87ers.
Oh yeah, up in Delaware.
87ers. Yeah. So the Bears are the Capitals minor league.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I think, isn't Bay Sox the Orioles minor league?
Yeah, the Bay Sox, they, with the whole thing going on with minor league baseball right now, with it being pared down, I believe they're still AA. But they're a minor league affiliate. They always have been for the Orioles. So you've seen some players before they made it up to the show, made their stop in Bowie first.
Yeah. That's the stop to make, I guess, unless you're a superstar right out of high school or something. But yeah, so like 300 people in these in these minor league, these semi-pro games, these minor league games. Still, that's got to be fun because with 10,000 people, it's just loud and it's very chaotic. But you're saying it's down to what, 300, 400 attendees now?
Yeah, it was something like that. They're only allowed 500 people in the building.
So
from what we were told. So and that includes, like, I'm one of those 500 that's included. So it's not just 500 fans. It's, every player is counted, every coach is counted.
Okay.
So it's however many are left after that. That's how many people we can let in for the fans.
Media, press, building employees.
Yes.
Yeah. So they're probably having like one-on-one conversations, screaming and cussing each other out across the rink, probably at this point, right? Like, your team sucks. Like, they can actually say that directly to each other across the rink or something. That's what I'm
saying.
saying.
They'll hear each other.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like, they can actually have like these arguments. A player can get in an argument with an attendee, and it could be way more audible, way more clear of a screaming match than like what we were used to like 10 years ago.
Yeah. And I think that's part of the reason why they have the fans gapped off from the ice a little bit more. Like, if you saw the Super Bowl yesterday, if you looked around the field, there was, there were tarps in some of the stands, preventing people from getting up close to the field. And I think they're doing that a little bit more around any place that has fans that are coming in. They're putting that buffer in there, so you can't really get up close to the players anymore.
Yeah.
But, for that safety, but it's definitely something that, if you wanted to shout out towards one of the opposing players, they'd hear you.
They'd hear you directly, clear, loud and clear, right? Yeah. Oh, what? And so do you have the fake attendees? Do you have like the billboard attendees, the cardboard attendees at your stadium?
No, not yet. At least I don't think not yet. It'd be kind of cool to say that, yeah, we had so many humans and then so many thousand cardboard cutouts there.
Yeah, the biggest kick for me, I think, was like when MLB, when pro baseball first opened up, they had like the first 5 rows full of like those cardboard cutouts, and somebody did Bernie Lomax from Weekend at Bernie's, and it's been, like, that's been the star. Everybody started copying that and putting Bernie Lomax into their stands, and it's fantastic. It's like the best goof on this whole situation. So I think like every sport, every team, every arena should put Bernie Lomax in their stands. That needs to be like this nonstop ongoing goof on our current times, because previous guests, we've always been talking about like this virtual podcast and what content's looking right now, all these adverts, all these PSAs, all these commercials, and how they're very minimalist now, and all these podcasts, it's like, crappy Zoom audio and crappy Zoom webcams. And it's like, listen, we're still putting out good content, having good conversations, but it's a staple of the time. And with these MLB games, all of 2020, not just MLB, but all the pro sports games, from 2020, even 2021, we know this is going to go through 2021, but it's a staple of the time. And in 2022, 2020, maybe more like 2023, full capacity, we're going to just really be excited and exuberant. And then we're going to be able to look back at these games where there was, cardboard cutouts of Bernie Lomax at every single game. Bernie Lomax made an appearance at every single pro game, no matter what sport, no matter what location, no matter what team, he was there, and it's like little goofs that we can even add within that staple of the times. But I don't know. I love goofs. I love funny stuff. How have you been impacted by the current state of affairs, and how have you adjusted?
Basically, there's been fewer games, so I mean, it's not, high school kids, some of their leagues, normally in the fall, I'm announcing for a volleyball team, high school here in Virginia. They haven't even touched the floor as far as I know. They've had some practices, but I don't know when their games are going to be or if they're going to have games. They've tried with basketball, and now they're, now that the basketball season's ending, maybe they get the fall sports in there, but it's definitely one of those that in the fall, in this, coming out of the summer into the fall, winter, there wasn't much on the plate. So, had to, get a regular job, as most of us have, and, that was kind of difficult to find because, everyone's looking for that extra job to make some extra money.
Yeah.
you know, and so that's how it impacted me. It was, not doing as much as I wanted to. When the Bears shut down, there wasn't that. Try to take the kids on vacations. Before, I could take one of the kids up with me to a game, and then we'd stay up with friends and then go to the park the next day. We haven't been able to do that much, just with the protocols and everything that's going on. We could drive up if we wanted to when the park's open, but it doesn't have that extra atmosphere of, hey, let's spend a night with dad and let's do this with dad and let's do that with dad. It's, now it's, just kind of hang around the house. And then when I have to go up, I go up. It's kind of lonely, that drive, but, I get to see some of Maryland and Pennsylvania. I know the kids would love to be able to go up with me, but, it is the way it is, what it is right now. And if we just continue going on down the right path, it'll make things better. And, we'll get back to that. It's just something for us to look forward to at this point.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Me and the wife, we brought home our baby boy 2 weeks before quarantine kicked in, or maybe, no, we brought him home a week before quarantine kicked in. So, his entire life pretty much has been spent in the house during quarantine. And, but, I got that, you got that body harness where you put him in and like and then he gets old enough, he can face out, like when he's really young, he faces you, but then like, he's 6 months old or older, then he can face out. And so I would just strap him in and I would get I called it my weighted vest. And I'd do like, a couple of laps around this big trail and he's just looking at everything. And that's it. That's like, it really kind of gives us much more appreciation for like the simpler things in life, to stop and smell the roses kind of mentality. But yeah, I mean, it's just like this weighted vest, essentially walk, kind of like hike around this trail, this park, nature trail around our neighborhood. A couple of laps of that. That's probably 2 miles, maybe 2.5, 3 miles. And he's just sucking in the scenery. He's just loving it. And he's just staring at trees and leaves and things he's never seen. And it's kind of that simple, but to start thinking about like, how old are your kids?
They're 9 and 11.
9 and 11, yeah. So it's like they're probably getting some cabin fever and they're like ready to get back to doing what they were doing when they were 7 and 9.
Yeah.
Right. And like they're rambunctious and they want to like get out and like play and see friends. And we have some kids in the neighborhood that wear masks and they're still like riding around on skateboards, but you can tell they're still distancing and and trying to make it work. But for my kid, I think we just got really lucky. I think the timing was perfect where we're constantly hands-on. We're seeing every micro evolution, but he's not missing out on much. And, the wife, she did some studies. Oh, this is where he needs to be at daycare, and really interacting with other infants and other toddlers. And I don't remember that. Now, maybe that was some sort of, progression and maybe that was some sort of development that I had that I don't remember, but I don't remember that. I remember maybe being 3 or 4 on and being in that daycare where I'm running around playing with toys and I'm able to talk and I'm like actually fully integratedly interacting with fellow kids at daycare and school and whatnot. But I don't really think he's going to remember it. And I think his development, I guess my concern is that he's going to be very dependent on us because it's just been 24/7 hands-on with the exception of some limited daycare that we have had the blessed opportunity to take advantage of some limited daycare. So he does get some interaction, but it's a tricky balance,
Yeah, it definitely is. And, when you have kids that, like I've got an Echo Show up above my computer and it's throwing through some pictures of when the kids were babies and whatnot. And they, I remember some of those studies about, take them to these places, let them get sick. Although now, you don't want, we're trying to keep them from getting sick because they get the wrong sick. It's not necessarily a good thing.
Yeah.
But, just trying to keep them healthy, let them interact with other kids. It's, it's not what it once was. And, I think the socializing aspect of it is definitely one of the big things that, that is going to help them later. But I think that if they get something now where they get a lot of interaction between mom and dad, and then the occasional, outside party that, can come in, I think that'll help them too. I think it's not about just leaving the kid, if you just let them sit there in the corner and, you don't do anything with them, then yeah, they're not going to learn how to socialize. But if, mom and dad are there, then, you can definitely do something to, encourage their socializing, once it gets back to the, once we get back to, what normal is going to be.
Yeah. No, you're right. And, I was telling you offline, and I've brought this up a million times on the show before. Well, not a million times, because we just got it, but the whole family just got COVID. I got it. Long story short, I'm in the DC National Guard. I was out there the day before the siege happened, and then the day after the siege happened. And then everybody was like on, at 100, after the siege happened. And for whatever political and interpolitical office reasons, finally they gave the green light to go way after the fact. But I was there the day after, and then I got COVID from somebody who got it from somebody while we were out on post there at the Capitol.
Oh, wow.
But then, the next day I got a text that somebody tested positive. And so I isolated, my wife and kid isolated, and then eventually I tested positive, and then eventually the baby boy did, and the wife did. But the baby boy kicked it fast, like nothing. I think I suffered more from it. I think my wife suffered more from it than my kid did. But again, my kid can't say I got aches and chills.
Yeah.
But what we can tell is that he had a fever. He broke his fever after a couple of days. He had diarrhea for a couple of days, like bad diarrhea, and then kicked it like it was nothing. He was always still like the happy, chipper, go lucky kid that he always was. So,
yeah.
I mean, we were very concerned for a while, and we still had these concerns of this thing called MSCI, something like that. I forget what it's called, but it's like these after delayed secondary effects that infants and children can have from COVID. But we haven't seen any signs yet. We're closely monitoring them. So, but it was definitely a concern for a little while. But we should have realized he's the toughest kid on the planet. He's banged. he's banged his head. He's had colds. He's fallen off couches before, and just he's gotten every single time he goes for his shots. 1 shot, 2 shot. The last time I think it was 3 or 4 shots. And like his face starts to turn like he's gonna cry, and then it doesn't. And it's like, wow, tough kid. So we were concerned, but going back to what you've been doing, what you've been up to. Have you mentioned offline? You've been back to a game announcing.
Yes,
you have.
Last Saturday.
Back on set, back on location.
Yeah, it was it was fun. It was quite nerve-wracking because I think part of it is I get nervous before I start any game anyway. I've been doing this almost 30 years, but it's still, you get nervous. If the nerves don't come out, it means you're not ready. And I want to be ready, and having that opportunity was good. But it's also the Hershey Bears, and there's a lot to them. I mean, their fan base is as rabid as any NHL teams. There's a passion up there. There is just the history. They've been around for 83 years. They've been around, longer than any other team, in the NHL except for the original 6. Honestly, I think at some point they could have wound up in the NHL if they had, pursued that way. But it's an amazing atmosphere, an amazing organization. They just had a teddy bear toss up there, a virtual teddy bear toss, where they had over 30,000 bears donated. You know, people drove up, waited in line to drive in, and they donated bears. And it was a constant line for over 4 hours, the people doing this from their cars. You know, I mean, you know, granted, 2,800 of those came from myself and my kids, because we have an organization called Great Big Cub Hugs that goes out and does, you know, we gather stuffed animals. But it was, you know, between me and another friend of mine, there was 10,000 right there. You know, there are teams that don't even come up with 10,000. So, you know, having that, just having that fan base like that, it's something special. And so getting to, you know, now do the music for them along with announcing, you know, to allow one more fan to come in, it kind of has that, you know, hey, I better do a good job for these fans that were able to get in, and for the people that are listening at home. You know, I don't want to mess up. I don't want to make a mistake. I don't want to play the wrong thing at the wrong time. I don't want to, you know, miss and, you know, not play the goal horn when they score, you know?
Yeah.
So it was extremely nerve wracking there, but it was also shaking off some of the rust. I've announced a few hockey games, you know, like high school games. I scorekeep for an adult league, and they let me, you know, plug in and, you know, play music and announce. And that's been allowing me to get back into that whole, you know, that whole routine.
Yeah.
But for some reason, you know, I'm not back to mid-season form, not yet anyway, but I will be after a couple more games, I think.
Yeah, and I get what you're saying. There's that nerve-wrackedness. Well, there's that additional kind of sense of responsibility, especially now. If you want to, you know, if you really want to start splitting hairs, like you said, you're taking a spot from an attendee.
Yeah.
So for those that were able to get spots, you know, you really got to, you know, hit the nail on the head. You got to be 100%. You really got to show them a good time. Like you said, can't mess up a song, can't mess up a spot, I guess. Is that what you guys call it?
A cue.
A cue. Thank you. I'm still learning myself, man, you know, but yeah, you can't miss a cue, can't miss a spot, can't miss a, you know, can't mess up a song, can't mess up some, you know, stats, because, like, you know, you're taking that one spot from an attendee. So for those who got in there, it's you got to make it even more perfect. It's even a more, you know, unique time right now for those that can get in the building, those that are taking the risk, those that are masking up, you know, like you said, you know, you got fans might be taking their kids there. They gotta mask up their kids. They gotta bring snacks. They gotta, like, bring hand sanitizer. They gotta bring all these extra freaking things to make the whole experience safer. And so, like, there you are. I hope I don't make your next gig more nerve-wracking, putting all these, you know, ideas in your head. But
no, it's that's always there, you know, because you want to make sure that everyone has a great time. Everyone that's able to get in there, you want to make sure that, you know, they leave happy regardless of the outcome. And, you know, it seemed to be that, you know, the fans were, you know, they seemed to enjoy it.
yeah.
Got to talk to a couple of them after the game, and they seem to have fun. And that's a good thing, and that's what I want to, you know, continue, you know, moving forward, trying to create some sense of normalcy in an abnormal world right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it's you know, a sense of normalcy. I get that. I mean, what's normal? That this has been brought up on the show before. But what's normal? I mean, I don't want to age you or date you, but I remember years before 9/11, and of course we all know what post 9/11 is. And so, okay, this thing happens, we get used to it. And then I think it was 04, 05, we had the N1H1, and hand sanitizer started being this big thing. Post 04, 05, hand sanitizer everywhere. Hand sanitizer stations everywhere. Now they just tripled it, you know. But you know, even before, even pre 9/11, a lot of other countries, they were walking around with masks. You know, a lot of Asian countries, a lot of European countries, everybody would mask up if they were, you know, feeling under the weather. And we were always so just complacent and nonchalant about that. I'm sorry, I gave you my flu. Oh, sorry, I gave you my cold. Oh, it's okay. I'm out for a day or two. But now it's not. Now it's not that simple, you know. So,
Yeah.
so what's next on the agenda? What's the next set of goals? What's next on the agenda? What's the next set of plans? Say 6 months to a year, for the next 6 months to a year for Jared Wronski. What's next on the agenda?
Try to get back into the whole swing of things with the Now thing. Get some more DJ gigs. Have a few parties and everything like that. In a past life, I was a wedding DJ. Won a few awards. So trying to get back into that, because this whole thing, I mean, myself, I think it was 9. Yeah, probably about 9 or 10 events that got canceled, just outright. You know, and that's a pretty significant amount of money that got left on the table, unfortunately. That's the way it is sometimes. But, you know, just trying to get back to, you know, getting out there when we can finally get to the point where we know that we have, you know, kind of to your point, you know, what is normal? Normal is, you know, if we have to wear masks, we have to wear masks. That's fine. I announce with a mask on. I look at it as having an extra windscreen on the microphone, and I slow down, and it, you know, forces me to be a better announcer. So I'm not too worried about that. I know some of my fellow announcers out there are, you know, yeah, I don't wear a mask, or I don't wear this, or I don't do that, or I don't, you know, I find it, you know, gets in the way. You know, I always try to find the positive in everything, you know, and it really is. So did a sound check the other day where I was intentionally trying to pop the P's and, you know, and get a little bit extra on the, you know, on the T's, and it wasn't happening because that mask was covering up all that extra power of the P, you know, so it wasn't like puh, puh, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And that, you know, I was like, all right, I'm kind of liking this now, you know, so I can announce better, I can enunciate better, it's forcing me to speak better. So, you know, the normalcy that, you know, I'm hoping we can get back to is get more fans into games, because more of the vaccines gotten out there, more people are, you know, they're masking up, they're following the guidelines, they're following, you know, just basic, you know, human nature.
Yeah.
You know, let's get out there, let's help each other, let's, you know, and I think that's the big thing is that, you know, when 9/11 happened, it was something that happened to us, and we were all in that together. Now what this is that this is somebody else that's giving it to you, but they may not even know that they have it.
Right.
You know, that's why I wear a mask. I'm not wearing a mask to prevent myself from getting it. I'm wearing a mask to prevent myself from giving it to somebody if I do have it.
Mm-hmm.
And thankfully I've been tested. You know, I've been tested a couple times. I don't have it. You know, it's a little bit chilly right now, so, you know, you get, you know, how you're feeling now because of the weather, but it's nothing, you know, I don't have any of the aches and pains or anything like that, you know, none of the other symptoms. And if I do, I'm going to go out and I'm going to get tested again. But if we can get to the point where we get the vaccine, I'm on the list to get the vaccine, so that's good. And, you know, hopefully one day we'll get to the point where this is like, you know, polio and some of the other diseases we were able to get rid of.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, who knows? You know, someone the other day mentioned that, you know, a common cold is a coronavirus. And I thought to them, interesting, because I think it was the rapid test. If you have a cold and you take the rapid test, it'll come up as COVID, but it doesn't necessarily come up as COVID-19. So maybe out of all of this, and this is one thing that my dad has always preached, is that for every good, there's something bad, and for every bad, there's something good. How many times have we heard a cure for the common cold? Are we actually in line to finally find that cure for the common cold?
Well, listen, I mean, it took them less than a year to come up with the vaccines for COVID. And it's like, you remember, even more so, you know, for 20 years, we've been talking about a cure for AIDS. 30 years, I think. We've been talking about a cure for AIDS. And we've been talking about a cure for the common cold and a cure for cancer. And so I think this rapid production and development of a vaccine out of the frickin' blue for COVID is really shining a light on maybe some, some scam artistry. And for, for like 20 years, we've been talking, the money's not in the cure, the money's in the treatment. Well, listen, enough's enough. And obviously you've come up with a vaccine for COVID. Clearly you can come up with a vaccine for all sorts of shit, because HIV is a virus.
Mm-hmm.
And so now they have this like this pre-shot to for HIV. It's this pre-shot that will limit the chances of AIDS from of HIV infection.
Yeah.
And so are you telling me you came up with a HIV vaccine but not a cure for AIDS? And so it's like, all right, like this whole rapid production of the COVID vaccine has shown a light on the treatment scam versus the cure scam, and which is great, I think. Time to start, kicking into overdrive, the cure for this, the cure for that. And I don't, yeah, no, go ahead.
No, and I think that, the way things are is I think there are people out there that want to do the right thing and help people and get them better. But, I mean, you look at people like, what was that one guy, Martin Shkreli or something like that, where he bought this.
Yeah.
He bought this vaccine,
mm-hmm.
And, then he just charged out the wazoo for it because he could.
Yeah. He multiplied the price by he multiplied it by 100. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because it could.
Yeah. And, hopefully that, we're able to shine a light on that. I mean, I know people that have gone up to Canada because they can get, medicines up there a lot cheaper than they can down here. I take medicines myself for certain things, and it's frustrating when, the insurance price is $400 some. I'm like, wait, $400 from the insurance company? And then I go online, I get an app from GoodRx and it makes it like 60.
Right.
I don't understand that. It's like, why is there such a huge difference in price?
Right.
And it's just, so when it comes to that type of stuff, I'm like, you know what, let's just try, let's try to do the right thing. And, I try to keep the positive outlook, and, hopefully, this gets pushed through. We do find that cure for the common cold. And then, hopefully, people realize that, we can find that cure for some of these other things, find the cure for cancer, find the cure for AIDS, find the cure for, all these other diseases and viruses that are out there. I'm not saying that, getting sick is a bad thing. Catching a cold, it does help your immune system. Sometimes you need that rest and relaxation. You've been, getting 2-3 hours of sleep for months on end. Yeah, it's good for your body to get sick because it's going to reset you and get you back where you need to go,
And when your body gets sick, you are building natural immunities, natural antibodies to said thing that got you sick. But at the same time, it's like, come on, man. We've pretty much seen the proof that this whole thing has been, a medical scam, a financial, a dollars, just a get rich scam in the medical field for, decades. Because if you're able to make a vaccine in less than a year, and everyone's saying like, well, it's always taken, it's always took, over a year to make a vaccine to this or make a vaccine to that, and it was less than a year. Maybe just about a year, but boom, you got it. I think the first vaccine success trials were in December, so. Rumor has it that COVID was here in December of 2019. People were getting it. And so now all of a sudden they have the vaccine, December 2020. Finally, the vaccines are getting, shot out there in January 2021. I mean, come on. I mean, if you can knock out these vaccines, you can knock out a lot of other stuff.
Yeah, and I'm hoping that, you know, like I said, I hope we're able to find cures now for some of these things. You know, I mean, we all know somebody at this point that, you know, has lost the battle with COVID. We know people that have lost battles with cancer. You know, I mean, it doesn't seem like I can go more than a week without somebody posting, you know, F cancer, because one, you know, either they have it or one of their close family members has it. You know, and that's the thing that I worry about, is that, you know, am I gonna, you know, go online and see that somebody else that I know, somebody that I've emceed for, somebody that I got to meet, you know, passed away through COVID? I mean, you know, Ron Johnson, you know, obscure name, but he was a coach in the Kansas City Royals organization and the Boston Red Sox organization. I got to know him when I was younger. He passed away through COVID. You know, he was a third base coach for the Red Sox for a few years, and, you know, it was just, you know, how did he get it? You know, it's not like we know how, you know, AIDS, we know how we can get it. It's a blood thing. But COVID, it's just like, yeah, you could be walking down the street and somebody sneezes on you, and now, bam, you have this major respiratory illness. You know, let's get rid of it. Let's get rid of some of this other stuff too that we can, and hopefully, you know, focus some money towards, you know, finding the cures for cancer, finding the cure for, you know, for everything that we, you know, all the really bad stuff that's out there.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Well, to touch on let's go to a lighter note here. Earlier you mentioned you got some awards for DJing. Awards for wedding DJ or awards for announcing?
Wedding DJ.
So is there like a specific Oscars? Like there's a special academy for wedding DJs?
There's the American DJ Association, and they have their own awards. But one of the things that I was starting to win is that people would, you know, see these awards. Like I was Northern Virginia Magazine's best wedding DJ for, I think it was like 4 or 5 years. And it was just people that had, you know, they had me DJ their wedding. They had me DJ an event for them, and they voted. You know, and, you know, there were times that I would put it up there too, but, you know, next thing I know, I'm finding out about, oh yeah, you know, you won this award too. I'm like, wait, I don't even remember this one. You know,
Right.
So it's, you know, it's like, yeah, you want, you know, this award came through too. It's like, oh, okay, great. You know, so it's being able to put on a really good show. Excuse me. You know, putting on a really good show, putting on a really good event, and, you know, making sure people have a good time. And that's always been my focus. And, you know, I think that's why on the game production side and on the, you know, the DJ side, I can do both, because that is my focus, is to make sure that the people that are there have a good time. You know, and it doesn't matter if I like the song or not. If I like the song, then, you know, then that's great. But if everybody's out on the dance floor, everybody's tapping their feet, everybody's moving around, that's what you want to see. And you know, you want to see people having a good time, especially now with everything going on. You know, good times seem so far apart now.
Yeah, absolutely. That's cool. So who's DJing or announcing the award show for DJs?
It's usually one of the award-winning DJs.
That's not on the list, right?
No, it's there's been you know,
it's an award-winning DJ that's not nominated that year, I guess, right?
Yeah, something like that.
Okay. All right. Well, let me ask you this. It's now that we're in February, is it too late to say New Year, Happy New Year, in your opinion?
I don't know. It's kind of a gray area. Yeah, I think once we get to the point where we're used to writing 21 on the date instead of 20, you know,
once you start getting used to it, right?
Yeah.
Then it's too late for that. Well, all right. What do you say as of right now?
I'd say February.
Well, what's your New Year, new you? What's the new Jared What's the new normal, new Jared, new year, new you?
Focus more on the positive stuff. I've had some negative things happen to me over the last year or so, and it's, I could be focusing on that and being miserable, or I could be focusing on the positive and, finding the positive. That's kind of why I came up with Positivity Sports, because I prove that I can, put on a good show. And now I want to try to do it to raise money for various charities and organizations.
Yeah. Hell yeah, man. I like that. What drives you to be positive? What drives you to focus on, charities? What's the driving force behind that?
It's really that I've had a lot of, just negative things happen in my life. And I read this book called The Energy Bus, where it talked about, you can be negative or you can be positive. And it was a good book. It's not anything earth shattering, but definitely something worth reading. And I saw a lot of myself in the main character, where, now I was focusing on the negatives. I was focusing on this, and, things weren't going right. But when I was focusing on the positives, things were going right. Things were going good. And you kind of have that whole mentality of that. If I focus on the positive and positive things happen, then if I focus more on the positive, then more positive things are going to happen. And it's a nice little domino effect that you have going on.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And that's what I want to do. And, if I can help other people that are battling some things in their lives that, people don't really want to talk about and, want to deal with, that's even better, because sometimes, asking for help can be the hardest thing sometimes.
Yeah. And that's, in the military, that's a big thing. It takes the strength of a warrior to ask for help.
Yeah.
But you ask for help, there's nothing wrong with it. Asking for help. I could, I can't agree with you more that sometimes the toughest thing is to stay positive. But just like with, military, just like with gigs, just like with, film and TV, just like with DJing and announcing, things become muscle memory. And that positivity has become muscle memory for me. The second this quarantine thing happened, I started losing gigs. I'm like, hey, to my team of colleagues, I said, hey, bros, let's try that podcast again that we failed at twice before. Let's try it again. Let's try it again. And even before quarantine, we tried it virtually, because one of them moved to Virginia, one of them moved to Colorado. And I said, dude, I'm not going to drive out to your place in Virginia every time. I'm not going to have you drive out here every time, because that wouldn't be fair if I'm not willing to drive out to yours. So, before with the podcast, I had one person, I would call both of them on Skype and call both of them on Google Hangouts, but because I could only bring one in on Google Hangouts, so I had to use two.
Wow.
I had to use I had to use two social platforms, two video. What are these things called now?
I think platforms, yeah.
An audio video platform. I had to use two because you could only, but now with Zoom. So probably 6 months before Zoom, before quarantine, Zoom was around, and I found out you could do all sorts of different stuff with Zoom. I'm like, oh man, I got to start implementing that. But I was so busy with on location stuff and on location gigs. So then the second the quarantine happened, it was like, yeah, I got a few bucks to buy the unlicensed version of Zoom. Let me do that. I'm able to bring in multiple people at the same time. I can stack them. I can cut shots. I can cut from one person to another. And it was like immediate. Remember when we tried that terrible podcast last year? We're gonna let's try it again. Way better technology, way better tools, and through trial and error, it'll have way better graphics, way better platform, way better other tools. And I think right now, you, Jared, I think you're episode 130. We've been like going pretty strong. Took advantage of this quarantine, took advantage of the downtime, took advantage of took advantage of, like, you know, fellow freelancers, fellow media professionals like yourself that might have way more free time to be able to join me on the show. Definitely took advantage of you guys, but getting also, you know, trying to spotlight you guys, share your stories, share your positivity, share your nightmare stories for the last year, but share your positivity stories as well, and positivity sports. Yeah, I love it, man. And but it's for me, positivity has always been muscle memory. You know, there's been times, yeah, I met my wife, you know, about 5 years ago, I want to say, roughly 5 years ago. And she come and she, when she found out that my life was based on gig by gig work, gig by gig income, gig by gig work. I might have an acting gig here. I might have a crew gig here. I might have a live AV event gig here. And she's like, "Oh my God, what's your schedule like, you know, next month? Do you even know what next month looks like?" And I'm like, "It'll come." And it just seemed like every time she asked, a day or two later, the emails, the texts, the responses started coming in, and then the whole month was booked up. Even, you know, with even better pay. You know, as I progress, you know, I might start charging a little bit more here and there. And the next thing you know, it's like looking at really good money. And the next thing you know, last month was great. This month is looking great. You know, it's just you know, when I first decided to go full-time freelance 10 years ago, there was some stress, there was some worry there. But then as it starts rolling, you know, it's like, just stay positive. Stop worrying about every little day. And the second, you know, she might start getting a little stressed, there's that email. "Oh, hey, yeah, a couple of days ago, you asked me about certain gigs. Check the calendar. All these dates are locked in." And she's like, "Oh my God." And so, you know, it's like, just stay positive. Just,
Oh yeah.
you know, kind of, and I brought this up before on the show a number of times. You know, I've had a lot of guests use the word blessed. And I guess you know, one way or another, I have to use the word blessed, but where did the blessing start? Or where did that hindsight, was I blessed with hindsight? You know, way back then I had that hindsight to say, let me jump into this kind of technical field. Let me jump into this kind of skill set. Or was I just blessed that it happened? And now even during quarantine, I stayed relatively busy, well, relatively remotely employed, relatively, you know, had the finances throughout this quarantine. I wasn't hit too hard like a lot of people were. And also, you know, with a lot of the side projects and the passion projects, you know. And it sounds like you stayed positive, and things kind of just went into a semi-new normal for you, to where you were pretty much back at it under different circumstances. Is that right? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. But I mean, it sounds to me like you stayed positive, and you stayed relatively safe and successful even within these times, right?
Yeah, and you know, being positive was a hard thing to do, because you know, there were other things that were going on in my life that, you know, kind of pulled away from me being positive. But it was also, you know, I needed the refocus. I needed the help. And I got the help that I knew I needed. And it's made me a better person, you know, overall. I'm a better dad for it. I'm a better person. You know, I work a retail job where, you know, you hear up teen million stories about how this person did this or this person did that, or I don't like these type of customers, or I don't like that type of a customer. You know, and I'm like, you know, I've been there. I put myself in their shoes. I've been there. You know, you get there 2 minutes before a store closes and they just barely let you in. But I've also been shut out where I get there 10 minutes before the store closes and they won't let me in. You know, so I think back, well, should I, you I've had a couple people that have said, "Oh no, don't let them in." I'm like, "No, let them in. Let them get what they want, and then we'll get out of here. No big deal." And that's the thing, is that just keeping that positive, and that that customer leaves with a positive frame of mind. That hey, that was really cool. Thank you for allowing me to do that. And just try to keep that positive, and the others will follow along with you.
Well, you kind of touched on my on the last point I always bring up, is what would be one last bit of it, one last point you'd want to make, one last bit of advice for what few viewers I have, but eventually, hopefully get that viewership up. But you kind of touched upon it, is just building that positivity, maintaining that positivity, maintaining that that hope.
Just keep focusing on the positive things that are happening.
And for me to touch upon that would be, like I mentioned before, making positivity muscle memory. You go into a gig, you start plugging in stuff, you know where to start. You got to plug in maybe camera first, and then you plug in audio. For you, it's opening up the case, plugging everything into power, and then turning on mics and plugging in your different mics and whatever, what your muscle memory is. In the military, muscle memory is, the different stages of going through with the weapons, and after you practice, it's all second nature. It's just like eating is with the weapons, just like eating is turning on the camera, flipping open the laptop, setting up the audio gear. It becomes muscle memory, and that's what positivity has to be. It's muscle memory. When shit hits the fan, it's like, okay, muscle memory. Stay positive. Here's what's happened before. We stayed positive. We stopped. We took a breath, and we worked on said situation. Positivity, muscle memory, I guess. Any links, socials, plugs you want to put out there before we go?
Positivitysports.com. That's the charity that I have, 501c3. So we're looking at starting to put together more events. We have right now a 5K called the Flick It 5K, which is dedicated to the greatest sport ever invented, paper football.
Awesome.
So we have that. We have about another month left of that being open. Then we're going to announce our next 5K. Looking at also having some tournaments, maybe an adult hockey tournament, ball hockey tournament, which is basically street hockey with a ball. When the weather gets warmer, it'll be easier to put on those. Also, the weather will be a little bit more predictable, we hope. Not like yesterday, where it started out as a winter storm warning and ended with the snow completely melted. But that's the way the weather is in this area. And then sportsannouncing.com has been my baby for many years. So if you're in sports, if you have somebody that is looking to announce a game or wants some more suggestions or just wants news on sports announcing, it's a huge resource that has all kinds of documents, sample PAs, sample scripts, playlists. And the playlists are just our lists of music. They don't have the actual songs on there for people to download, because then that would be illegal. I want to keep the record companies happy. It's a tough time for them too, because with everybody streaming everything, they're not, think about it. When we were kids, we'd go out, we'd buy the tape or the CD or the record that it was on, and then we'd play it at our house. Well, a friend of ours would also have it at their house. Now, if you're streaming it, you're not really buying anything. You're only paying for the streaming service. So you can listen to 1,000 songs a month and pay whatever Spotify is, like $15. Well, I don't own any of those 1,000 songs I just listened to, so they're not getting anything from it. I do own all the music that I play, so there is that cost associated with it. And there's about 200 more songs that I want to add, but I'm slowly adding them as we go. So that's where the sports announcing side of it is. And hopefully that helps some people that are getting into it, and they want to, they want some extra help doing their kids games, or they want some extra help, looking forward to, just doing a game that they have, to college or something that they've done to develop their own talent. And that's what sportsannouncing.com is there for.
Awesome. Jared, I can't thank you enough for coming on. You heard it from Jared. All his links in the description below, so definitely check out his stuff. Jared, can't thank you enough for coming on. I'm continually learning more, inspired more, and just pushed to continue this show and continue and push to continue getting out there and working through these tough times and keep gigging it, as my buddies always call it. Like, you still gigging it? You still gigging it? I'm like, yep, still gigging it. So Jared, again, it was a blast having you on. Thanks so much. It was great having you on, and learned a lot. And to my viewers, me and Jared were actually earlier talking about cancer, and so a charity and a cause that I've been pushing for a while now is Landon's Mafia. My buddy Landon Koya has had sarcoma NOS, and he's at the Pediatric Cancer Center, I think either in New York or Texas. I should know this. This is a terrible promotion, but still, Landon's Mafia, all his links and all his information is in the description as well. I've been putting his information out there. I think he's in his 3rd remission now with this sarcoma NOS. He's kicked it, and he's been fighting it, and he gets it back, and he fights it, and he kicks it, and then he gets it back. So he's a tough kid, tough cookie. He's been fighting this thing all his life, and I think he's about 5 or 6 now. So he's a tough dude. Landon's Mafia, all the hashtags, all the links in the description below for Landon as well. Jared, again, it was a blast. Can't thank you enough for coming on and sharing your stories and sharing and sharing your inspirations as well. So it was a blast having you.
Definitely. Thanks for having me on, Glenn.
Awesome. Well, to my viewers, I hope I've earned the privilege of your time and viewership. I know my guest has. Until next time, you know what to do.